Today we are going to baking apples with honey with walnuts. So we need oil to not our samp be dirty after baking. This piece of foil, aluminum foil, is enough. And let's begin from what we do first. We cut the tails from our apples and cut out the upper side of apple to reach the center of apple with seeds. So we go not through all apple to the bottom but only the upper side. And we rid off the apple tails just because we don't want that they damage our super thin foil aluminum, very soft metal aluminum and a very thin foil. So we cut out the upper side like this with enough diameter to put inside the honey with chopped walnuts. And knife should be small and sharp enough, for we can do this more easily. And our work will be more fast if we work with assistant. Check that the apples without tails, so we not damage our oil. You can use simple knife for this work. And you cut this side where was flower from this side, from where our apple tree was with flower before apples was appear. Tear the tail again from each apple. I prefer to cut the upper side. Maybe anybody do it from the bottom, but I prefer do it from the upper side. And yes, meanwhile you can switch the oven for preheating before you put inside the sample with apples. Or we got hot area from the start, and we baking them more quickly. So preheat the oven. Should I done this? Yes, of course. No questions. So strange that surface of the walnuts inside not so smooth and perfect. But we're chopping them and put inside the apples with honey. And maybe someone lives inside the walnuts. And these thoughts kind of beat me off. But I hope that hot temperature kills them anyway. Maybe you know who can spoil them inside the walnuts. I'll be curious to know what your thoughts are. Nut does look good. It's definitely sleek looking. Just I always envisioned that if nuts perfect in outside, that means that they perfect inside. But turns that not always so. A little strange dust inside also. Anyway, we're going to baking them, so it doesn't fucking matter. It's just superficial dust. Even if they have any parasites inside, we kill them with super hot temperature. That's just the way to go. Like the saying goes, you can't have your cake and eat it. And let's say them, you can't eat my nut and live in it. It just isn't something they can physically do. That's not what these nuts is about. And if they sit in the nuts, they still pissed. We cracking nuts by hands like eggs. So the ants that they continue living after baking are slim to none, and we chopping them, and that's what you want. So we pour enough honey into our bowl. So how it should be done in the next? Maybe we're increasing these holes a little bit so the nuts can easily go inside. So we can deploy our nuts inside our apples, and with honey they will be more delicious. So while cooking, we realize that these holes will be better, more bigger in diameter. Stirring our chopped nuts and put in each apple enough nuts inside. Push inside them a little bit, push. And as we realized, will be better to increase these holes for nuts with honey. Our work pays off when we'll be eating them. You can do these holes more bigger or more smaller because it's what makes your apple unique. So we go ahead, we fill our apples with nuts with honey. Main time devote for preparing our apples for baking. Nuts with honey should be aligned. So we even that out. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Main thing that they'll be delicious and healthy. When we eat them, all this work will be overlooked, but we remember what was done. So you see, there is no so expensive ingredients. If you like it, if you find it very delicious, you can appease in your desire all the time when you want it. And I think you catching on that inside you can put whatever you want. Oh yes, rains water to the sun, so we get steam under the foil. And yes, just I remember, please consider liking and subscribing. Come on, now, let's put them inside the outdated oven, but it's reliable as can be. 14 minutes for the first. And now, after 40 minutes, let's look. If you're interested now, let's take out our foil. It's very hot, a lot of steam under. You see, steam goes out. Under the steam, under our foil, we see our apples, our delicious apples with walnuts. Maybe they look not so perfect, but they delicious. Very simple and cheap recipe. But eventually we get delicious apples and delicious nuts. What very healthy for evening food, for the dinner. Here we put them on the table and look more closely. And they looks great, I think. And very, very delicious and healthy.